It's cold in Colorado. That's the thing. That's all you need to know about hunting in Colorado.
Winter time.
It is winter time, and a lot of the hunts take place in the winter. So that is what we want to talk to you about, though, because Colorado brings a lot of hunters every year. In fact, I'm going to hit you with one wild stat right off the bat. 200,000 hunters
Really?
every year go into just for elk.
Just for elk hunting. 200.
Yep.
I did not realize that.
I discovered that fact today. Yeah, 200,000 just for elk. So if you want to be successful, which you can be, absolutely. If you want to be successful in hunting, you absolutely need to understand what to do and what not to do and how the system works.
Ooh, that's key. How the system works.
Yeah.
Because it is hunting in Colorado. It's not like hunting in the Midwest where you're going to deer hunt on your buddy's property next door on his 100 acres of soybean, and you just go down and you get a tag at the Quality Farm of Fleet the day before. That's not how it works here.
No.
There's a draw process. You got to put in for every different species, and you got to put that in like 9 months before you're actually going to go hunt. What else is convoluted about it? Oh,
there's a coded system. There's preference points. There's weighted points.
Game management units.
Yep.
So there's got to be 100 different, they call them GMUs, game management units across the state. So when you buy a tag, it's not for the whole state. It's for one area within the state. That's a lot different.
So it's super important, and we're gonna help you kind of understand, because we know that you're looking to move to Colorado, and you've been wanting to do it, and maybe you've just wanted to be an out-of-state person and come here, in which case, like, we're not really gonna cover a lot of the out-of-state requirements because it's just different. So do yourself a favor and move to Colorado Springs. We'll help you get your move situated, obviously, but this video will at least help you get well along your way to figuring out this kind of confusing system. So like Chris said, first and foremost, there is over the counter, right, where you can just go pick some stuff up. But then there's also, it's not even a lottery. It is a draw, but the draw is based on preference points. So the very basics, you go into the website. It's typically, the deadline is like mid-April. Early mid-April.
Early April, yeah.
And you're basically going to select your species, like what you're trying to hunt, your species, and then you kind of like narrow it down based on, bull or cow. I'm just talking about elk right now, right? Bull or cow, and then what season you want to hunt. So like, do you want archery or muzzle loader or like any legal weapon? And then on top of that, then you have to figure out the game management unit, which there's maps on the website that you can look at that kind of like break it out. And there's a lot of GMUs. I mean,
it's a lot.
down in New Mexico, there's like,
how many are down there?
There's like 55-ish.
Okay.
Here, there's like,
it's over 100, man.
There's well over 100, right? Smaller ones, like much more confined. So anyway, and then on top of that, you're choosing the season, like first rifle season, second rifle season, third rifle season, fourth rifle season. So it can get pretty convoluted. I'm going to say this up front. Not sponsored, would love to be, but there is a website called gohunt.com. And if you're moving to Colorado and you're serious about hunting and you just don't want to waste the rest of your life trying to decipher what's on the Colorado Game and Fish,
navigate the whatever natural resource division website.
Yeah, even their like the data. I mean, it's all the same data. It's just in a presentable format. You can click on the GMUs. You can click on species. Honestly, 10 out of 10 recommend. It is worth the membership if you're gonna really like any of the Western states. It's a super helpful thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's the basics, right? You get your hunting license. You have to have your hunter safety. Fortunately, in Colorado, you don't have to have a Colorado-specific hunter safety. Like in Utah, it has to be a Utah-specific one. But that's just the start. Is going to the website, you get your hunting license, and now you start building your profile that you're going to be building for, honestly, the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like forever. Because some of the top units, like you have to have 30 preference points to be able to hunt an elk in that
It's
area.
crazy. So the different GMUs have vastly different numbers of animals in them and vastly different success rates, and also vastly different quality of animals if we're talking about bull elk.
Yep.
So, little story for myself, I saved up, Kyle mentioned preference points earlier. So you can also, if you don't want to apply for a tag for your first choice, you can put 3 options on the form. You can put, I want a preference point. That's what I want. So then the next year when you apply, you have 1 preference point, and you just keep doing that till you build them up to get into those great, great trophy units.
Which, by the way, you also get a preference point if you do put in and you don't draw. So,
yes.
so that's like the 2 ways.
The 2 ways you can get them, yeah. I put in for, I had 13 preference points for elk, and what I figured out was the number of preference points that I needed to get into the unit I really wanted was growing at a faster rate than what I could accumulate preference points. So finally, I was like, forget it, screw it. I just cashed in my 13 points. It was a muzzleloader hunt down in Southwest Colorado. It was a great hunt. It took me I think it was 10 points to draw in, so I had more than I needed. But the preference point system is crazy. So super important to understand that just those different GMUs, you got to do a lot of research ahead of time to figure out, like I said, success rate's the biggest thing, because a lot of people are like, oh, I'll just pick this unit in the mountains and surely I'll see elk. Not always the case.
Not always the case.
Yeah.
Additionally, I'm going to plug Go Hunt here throughout probably this whole video, but another thing that they do really well is they actually help you. So in Chris's position where he's like, I've got 13, I'm never going to get to that one that's in Northwest Colorado.
Exactly, unit 1.
Yep, that's got 30, now it's 32 preference points to even be considered.
So that's 32 years of saving up points.
Yep, and there's no way, you can't get 3 1 year or 2,
right.
like that. It doesn't work like that. So anywho, but what it actually does is you can narrow down and be like, I only have 10 points or I have less than 5 points, and it helps you build these strategies for if you want to use your 1 to 5 points, these are some units that you can put in for. So it's not just elk. We'll get into the more specifics of all of the different species across the board, but it is pretty much every species here is on some form of a preference points system.
Right, yeah. So the license, step 1, apply for it. I'm just going to give you a quick example of what I do every year. So you do your research ahead of time. Like Kyle mentioned, deadline's the first part of April. You got to have all of your application put in. So I go through and I put in for whatever elk unit I want in season, whatever deer unit in season, and then the other 3 that I put in for, and they're called the, I don't know, special species? I don't know what they call them, but it's bighorn sheep, mountain goat, and moose. So you have to apply for all those differently, what season you want to go, what method of take you want to have, and what GMU you want to go into. And you fill out this big, long online application. You pay a little bit of deposit money. It used to be you had to pay for the full tag amount, and then if you didn't get it, you'd get it refunded, but now you just have to pay a little bit of a deposit. So you do all that before the first part of April. Now you've applied for your tags. So that's step 1.
And with those 3 specifically, since we just brought them up, those require 3 preference points to even be considered. And then what starts happening after you have those 3 preference points is they start considering what's called a weighted point. The math of how that works out, it's super freaking confusing.
Some algorithm, man.
But just know that for those 3 that he mentioned, moose, the sheep, and mountain goat, you have to have 3 preference points build up before you're really even considered. And then after that, then it's the more weighted points that you get, then the higher likelihood, but you could draw. But anyway, and then there's specific stipulations on if you shoot one, can you get one again?
Right.
Some of them yes, some of them no. So that's beyond the scope of this
level
video.
300 right there.
Yeah, no kidding. So let's talk about species though, because it is really, really fascinating. So we've kind of touched on elk. Something interesting about Colorado is in a sense, it is the mecca of elk hunting because Colorado manages elk for quantity, not necessarily size, but we'll say quality, right? So they're really managing it to just have hella elk across the state. And there are. I mean, in fact, we were driving back from Breckenridge the other day, and just in an open field, there was a herd of, it was the biggest herd I've ever seen. It was somewhere between 500 and 1,000 elk, just,
a lot of elk.
Just chilling in this field. Yeah, it was crazy. And then 10 miles down the road, there was a herd of probably 300 pronghorns. So just a wild state. There is wildlife everywhere. although the first couple times I came here, I would get so mad because I was looking everywhere. I was like, where are these elk? There's like elk signs, bear signs, sheep signs, everything. I'm like, where are they? And I never saw any, but
They are slippery little
but they
devils.
are there. But they are there. So elk is there have been some Boone and Crockett like high prized, high scored elk throughout the state, but a lot of those like bigger elk with higher trophy potential, they're in those units that we were talking about.
Hard to get
They're
into,
really, really hard to get. They give out very few tags per year, and they're really, really protected there. But there are elk hunting opportunity because if you don't draw, you can also go get an elk tag over the counter, and that's really awesome. I mean, like, so people will put in for a preference point, or they'll put in, and if they don't get it, they'll get their over-the-counter tag and go bebopping through. You just have to realize that, like, it's over the counter, and everybody else can also go buy them over the counter. So the hunting pressure is going to be pretty enormous. You have to be prepared. In my opinion, if you want to be successful, you got to be prepared to move.
Yeah, you got to go farther and sometimes higher than what other hunters want to go to be successful.
Yep. And, you know, that all goes into the calculations. This video is also not intended to talk about the ethics of hunting, but, you know, sure, I can hike in 8 miles, but then, like, if it's just me and Lauren and we shoot a monster bull.
Trying to get this thing out.
Yeah, and we have to do 4 trips. You know, now we're hiking 32 plus miles, 40 miles. Like, you know, are we going to make sure that we get all of that elk out? Because that's like what I care the most about. So, anywho, so those hunts can be very difficult, but they're accessible. And, you know, I say this all the time, and I think you feel the same, is like 75% of the hunt is like, I got to just spend a week in nature doing some exploring.
Yep.
And if you are new to hunting, one of the most amazing things about hunting truly is that, like, you experience nature in a different way. You get to get out into nature, and, like, now you're paying attention to tracks and to the poop and to, you know, rubs on the trees and broken branches and smells and sights, because you're trying to be in tune. You're trying to find these things, and it's really like meditative. You really get into like a zone and like a real flow state.
Totally, man.
And you're just sitting there and you're just chilling. Sometimes you're moving, sometimes you're just chilling. So anywho.
Yeah. I think a key thing to hit on is, like you mentioned, the draw, but like you said, if you don't get a tag, you can still get over the counter. And a lot of people do that and have a ton of success.
Yep.
So over the counter, again, we'll say elk is the example. It's going to be a second season rifle tag. So you're talking the first-ish part of November. And it's going to be in certain game management units that you can go to. And it's a lot of the state,
There's
honestly.
a lot. Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a ton of national forest and
The
BLM land in
the
Colorado.
population of elk has been growing, and so they're opening up more and more over the counter.
More over the counter. So you still have a great opportunity. So get your tags put in if you want to be selective about where you want to go, but then, you know, don't get all upset about it if you don't actually draw your unit, because you still have a lot of great opportunities to hunt elk in Colorado, or any animal for that matter. So the over-the-counter part, some people just kind of forget about that, and they think, oh, I didn't draw, so I can't hunt. You got a lot of great opportunity. Not to get down in the weeds too much more, there's also the leftover list. So if you don't draw, then the Division of Wildlife sends a leftover list and says, hey, of all the draw units, these tags weren't taken, so you can pick off that list if you want to, or you can do over the counter. So it does get a little bit convoluted, but when you break it down, just apply for your license. If you don't get it, then you can do the leftover list, or you can do over the counter.
Leftover list separate from the second draw, which is also a new thing. Oh my gosh, there's so much.
It's true, man. It gets ridiculous.
Yeah,
it really does.
So like, even if you missed it for whatever reason, they will do like a second draw it's like the second 2 weeks of June, and you don't have to have applied for the first one. You just have to have all your ducks in a row. And it's basically like unclaimed tags.
Yeah.
Is more or less what it has to do.
That's a good way to look at it.
And so you have another opportunity to put in. And if you did put in the first time, you can put in again and just try your luck again. Now, you won't get an extra preference point or whatever.
Right, yeah.
But that's pretty dope. So.
Good.
No.
A big thing, cost. It is expensive in a lot of western states to hunt.
Yep.
If you are a resident of Colorado, man, you're living the good life.
Yeah.
What's an elk tag? I think it's like $50 now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
compared to, I don't know.
It's like $350 to $400 for an out of
non-resident.
state.
Yeah. And I know like Montana, Wyoming, New Mexico, Arizona, I'm pretty sure their in-state or their resident prices are a good bit higher than Colorado's are, and their non-resident, I don't even know what they are. But yeah, so overall, it's $50 per tag per species is probably a pretty good planning number. Some might be a little bit more, some might be a little bit less. But actually, I take that back. If sheep, goat, and moose, even in-state is at about $300. But
Worth.
elk and deer, yeah, exactly, yeah, definitely worth it too, yeah. Compared to like flying to British Columbia to do a hunt or something and paying a few $1,000s.
And by the way, just for the record, Colorado also does what a lot of states do, where like if you're a military person and you get stationed here, generally speaking, like they honor that, they consider you a part of Colorado, so you get like the in-state licensing.
If you're on orders here in Colorado. And another, as we're talking about costs, I think another awesome thing that the Division of Wildlife does is that money that you're paying for your tag, it goes back in, like directly back into management of wild game in Colorado, of wildlife in Colorado.
Yeah.
So, huntable and non-huntable species. So the money, if nothing else, it's a great donation. And I've donated a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of money to Colorado Division of Wildlife over
Yeah.
the years. But yeah, it's a great cause. You're helping out wildlife no matter how you look at it from the conservation standpoint. So tags are not expensive if you're in state, and it's a great cause even if you don't get anything.
And they're doing a good job. Actually, we were really just holding out and hoping that a mule deer would come walking by.
There was a bunch earlier. Now they've run from us.
Yeah, we were hoping that one would go traipsing by. But fun fact, Colorado has the record, the Boone and Crockett record, for the largest typical mule deer ever recorded, which was in 1972, so it was a hot minute ago.
That's an old record there.
It is an old record. I looked at a picture of this thing. It was pretty crazy, and
ridiculous.
maybe it'll like magically appear right here. But it had 30-inch main beams on both
Holy
sides.
cow.
He was huge.
That's ginormous, man.
So is that totally normal? No, but I will tell you the biggest mule deer I've ever seen in my life are like in town, in Colorado Springs,
Right, yeah.
Across Colorado. There are mule
Yeah.
deer everywhere. You see them all the time. But generally speaking, as far as hunting them, it's about same as far as the process. Except there's no over-the-counter for mule deer, is there?
Yeah, there's not like the statewide. No,
Yeah.
you have to. And the mule deer population dropped for a period of years, so it's still rebounding right now. So the number of tags for mule deer, it's actually harder to get a really good mule deer tag than it is to get an elk tag right now. At least in a good unit. I mean, you can certainly get some, but you may not have the best success.
So those are the two most popular, but one that we talked about earlier as well is pronghorn.
Yeah,
most
antelope,
people,
man, yeah.
Most people don't think of Colorado when they think of pronghorn because they're more of a plains creature. But if you didn't know this, Colorado, especially in hunting terminology, can really kind of be split in half, north to south. You have like the western slope, which is basically the Front Range over, and then everything to the east is the Eastern Plains.
Eastern Plains.
Yeah, pretty
There you
straightforward.
go, right,
I'll give you $10 if you can guess what's there. So, but that's not the only place that they live. Like I said, I was coming back from Breckenridge, and it was kind of in the big basin when you come out and you're heading kind of towards Hartselle. And that's where, tons of antelope out there. But yes, where you'll find the most is probably on the Eastern Plains, because they're not really like mountainous creatures. It's not really their
They
vibe.
like the flat lanes.
Yeah. Also, second fastest land mammal. I don't know if you knew that.
Next to a cheetah?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
They
fastest
are fast
land
little-
mammal in North
They're
America.
fast little boogers.
Yeah.
I will tell you another story about preference points and antelope. So I had 14 preference points for antelope saved up, and I actually drew into the area, that South Park area.
Okay.
And a buddy of mine, he and I both took really nice antelopes up there, but they're bigger, they're kind of beefier, they're like mountain antelope versus, the plains antelope, so they get a little bit bigger. But yeah, so in the mountains, there's a few spots, but yeah, definitely mainly, out east, they're all over the place.
Surprised though, because everything's made up and the points don't matter, but the points matter totally, is that there is, if I'm not mistaken, there is over-the-counter archery for antelope. Yep.
I believe there is, yes.
Yep, there
Yeah.
are.
Yep.
And it's only in like specific units or whatever, but like that's a thing. So, and you can use decoys with them. I do remember reading that. So
That's a hard thing too. Archery antelope, that's a tough hunt.
Yeah.
I've not done that one. That sounds hard, yeah.
Okay, so now let's talk about like the big mammoth gems. I think we're ready to talk about.
Yeah.
Moosaloos.
Big mofos.
Listen,
That's what they are.
I've only seen one moose in Colorado personally, and it was in Rocky Mountain National Park.
Okay.
So I don't even know if that counts.
I mean, I think it does. They're
It's
big.
a moose.
Yeah, it's a moose. They're huge, huge animals.
They're so big.
Can I tell one more story?
Please do.
Okay. So I don't know the exact year. You guys will have to do some research. Maybe it'll pop up on the screen too. But yours truly was actually on the cover of the Division of Wildlife Big Game Guide.
What?
Yeah. A buddy of mine, he's an older gentleman. He's about 70 at the time. He drew a moose tag and shot a ginormous moose that I called in for. I'm pretty proud of that fact.
Wow.
And yeah, it was on the cover of the Wildlife magazine brochure thing.
We've got to find this.
So there, I know, right? I don't even. It was like 2016, maybe something like that.
Wow.
We'll find that. We'll put that on there. Yeah. But they are huge. Packing that thing out. Got some flyovers happening right now.
I think
Apparently.
it's C-130s. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, packing a moose out, no joke. That's like
Yeah.
that's a whole different level of suck, honestly.
Yeah, those are some big creatures.
Yeah.
So it is actually really possible though, like the moose populations here in Colorado are pretty healthy.
Yeah.
And it is like relatively common to be able to take down a 40-inch moose,
Yeah.
which
yeah,
is pretty dope.
That's huge. Yeah.
That's really big.
Huge, yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, even like if you just want the experience of moose hunting, a friend that I hunt with every year, he drew a cow tag, so female moose, and took a female moose, and it was, I mean, a lot of good meat off of that thing too.
Yeah.
You know? And it's a lot easier to draw for a cow tag versus a bull tag with a moose.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, those things are huge. And there's a lot of them in Colorado, but they're in very kind of localized areas. You know, they like kind of that wet alpine area, so you don't find them all over the state like you find elk almost everywhere. So
Yeah, they're at Breckenridge Mountain Resort. So if you just want to go
yeah,
skiing,
exactly.
and,
Yeah, go check out a moose.
every time I get on the gondola at Breckenridge and we start riding up to Peak 8, I tell everybody in the gondola, if you find me a moose, I will send you $100 right now. That's how much I want to
Venmo
see
to you
them.
right now. Yeah.
Nobody ever finds them. But I always meet people who are like, oh my gosh, we saw one this morning. No, it was like right there. Yeah, when we were. I'm like, nah. It makes me so angry because I never see them.
Right. Yeah.
But what I have seen quite a bit of is mountain goats.
Especially around Breckenridge.
Yeah.
Yes.
Around Breckenridge. I saw the most when I was down in the Durango area.
Oh, okay.
We were in the Weminuche Wilderness.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Down at Chicago Basin.
Yeah.
And wild. I mean, they're like walking through our campsite.
That's cool.
Like, yeah, they're pretty wild. But
And they'll also walk up the side of a mountain, and you're like, I don't even understand how your little hoofs are sticking to that.
okay, it's so crazy. So we talk a lot about like the 14ers around here, and there's quite a few of them that like the mountain goats are notorious on. One of them is called Pyramid Peak. My friend Carly did Pyramid Peak this past summer, and she said that like it was literally just like following her up the mountain.
Just hanging out.
Yeah, they get so used to people, and
Yeah.
they do some weird stuff. Like, you know, if you put your pack down, they like the salt, so they'll come over and they'll try to like lick your bag or like lick where you've been sweating or your poles. Also, they'll also like lick the rocks that you pee on. So
you go.
that's also kind of weird, but
Goats are
it
weird,
is what
man.
it is.
Goats are weird, yeah. They're curious creatures.
They're
Like,
very
They
curious.
kind of want to see what you're up to. They're not super skittish. My mountain goat hunt was actually on the backside of Quandary Peak, so right outside Breckenridge.
yeah.
Yeah, so they are, yeah. But they're high. It's a hard hunt. I think I had 9 mountain goat points when I drew. Definitely encourage anyone that likes to hunt, and if you like the mountains, it's like the perfect mix of things. You're hunting above tree line the whole time. I mean, it's a great hunt. And in Colorado, it's actually one of the easier states and less expensive states to get a mountain goat tag in compared to, like I said, like Montana or Alaska or wherever else. It gets pretty pricey.
But what's not easy to get? Them bighorn.
Those bighorn sheepies,
Bighorn,
man.
and we're just going to lump them in with desert
Yeah, stick 'em
bighorn as
together,
well.
yeah.
Desert bighorn, fun fact, they give out like 12 a year.
Whole state.
That's it, 12, and one, or maybe it was 10 and one. Anyway, and one to a non-resident. So very difficult. That's not really that big of a surprise because,
There's not a lot of them, right?
yeah, there's not a lot of them, and bighorn sheep hunting basically in every state is pretty limited.
Yeah.
Very expensive.
Right, yeah. I think a lot of people hire a guide whenever they draw a tag because, if you're waiting 16 years to draw it and then you don't get anything, that is kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think a lot of people hire a guide. I have not been on a bighorn sheep hunt. something I really want. I put in every year for it. So Division of Wildlife, if you're listening,
Yeah, they're, he's just slinging those weighted points
That's
around,
right,
trying
man.
to
Hoping for the best.
But I have seen them. Well, so the place that I've seen them, and actually, I'm just going to go ahead and plug this now, and I'll plug it again at the end. But where I have seen almost all of these creatures in one location, Rocky Mountain National Park.
Definitely.
One day,
Yeah.
Rocky Mountain National Park.
You want to see them?
Yep.
Just see them and look at them. Yeah.
Yep, we saw in big ol' honking rams in Rocky Mountain National Park, just like right up the side of the road, probably within 100 yards of where we were driving.
hanging out.
Pulled over, watched them. They were there. Moose were there. Enormous elk. It was during the ride. Enormous mule deer. Like Rocky Mountain National Park is a pretty magical place. And I saw bighorn sheep on the side of I-70 going through the canyon towards Keystone.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Just chilling on the side of the road in a very precarious spot.
Just
But,
loving life, man. Hanging out in the mountains.
yeah.
Something that I think is really, really important is, you always want to be an ethical hunter, no doubt about that. And every state has different rules and regulations. And Colorado's no different. There's a lot of, when it comes to where you can hunt, how far off the road you have to be, how you have to transport the game meat, all that stuff. We're not going to try to cover all of it. I will just say, know the rules before you hunt in Colorado, because you don't want to get that lifetime ban on hunting.
Don't assume that they're the same rules as where you came from.
100%, yeah.
Especially if you've never hunted in the Western states. But there are things about Colorado that are different than New Mexico even.
Yeah.
Maybe this is everywhere, but I actually read today, during archery season, you cannot use a crossbow.
That is true in Colorado, yeah.
Yeah, that's not the same in every state.
Yeah, I think a lot of states you can use a crossbow.
Yep. And so that's just the tip of the iceberg
Yeah.
of some of the differences. But obviously, make sure that you know what you're doing. Not only is getting a lifetime ban awful, but also it's kind of a just scumbag thing to do.
You don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
You don't want to be that guy. Because then everybody assumes oh, you got a lifetime ban? What are you, some kind of poacher guy?
Yeah.
Not cool.
But I also don't like poachers. So.
Yeah, no. Huge non-fan of poachers.
Yeah, so don't do that. Just I like the wildlife, and even when it's not hunting season, we didn't even go on a hunt this year in Colorado. But it's just nice that they manage the wildlife and that they're just all over the place.
You get to see them running around in their natural habitat. It's awesome. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
So another one, by the way, is black bear. You can.
Oh, yeah, we didn't talk about
black
bear.
bear is a very it's not one that people are oh, I'm going out for my black bear tag.
It's the secondary thing you add on, kind of.
Most people that are elk hunting or deer hunting, sometimes even turkey hunting if it lines up in the spring, because I think there's a spring bear hunt. I can't remember. That might be New Mexico. But anyway, is they will grab a bear tag just in case. Some people do just go on dedicated black bear hunts, which is totally rad. But it's something that people will pair up a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think I've never gotten a bear tag. Never really had a big desire, but yeah, they're definitely here. You see them out and about running around.
I don't believe it. I've never seen a bear in the wild.
They're here.
Not even at Rocky Mountain.
Rocky Mountain National Park, circa 2000, I don't know, whatever the heck it was. My wife and I are walking along on a trail, and I come around a corner. We both come around a corner, and there's a bear in the trail, probably 30 yards, probably 20 yards in front of us. And I do the whole stop real fast. She thought that was a crouch to run, so she took off.
Oh.
That's what you don't do. She took off sprint and left me with the bear.
It's a bad play, but
yeah, not a good play.
One of you was about to get eaten.
Exactly.
And I think you were the closer one.
She was smart. She was smart about it. Don't run from the bears like that. But you will see them every now and then, but usually they're just doing their bear thing. They don't really care.
Yeah. There is also bird hunting here, obviously. Turkey hunting, pretty big. I mean, you can turkey hunt in basically any state, so that's not super unique out here. But there's over-the-counter as well.
Yeah.
Duck hunting, obviously.
Goose hunting's big when the flyover's going
Yep,
on. Yeah.
Yep. This is a big. Interestingly enough, I was actually surprised. I thought Colorado Springs specifically was dead in line with the Pacific Flyway, I think is the one that it is. And I'm oh, they're going to stay on the east side of these mountains because it'll be a little bit warmer, and they're just going to come ripping over Colorado Springs on their way down, because New Mexico and the geese that go to Lubbock and Amarillo between there in thousands. It's wild. So I was oh man, it's just going to be every day looking up in the sky and seeing tons of geese and tons of ducks. And truthfully, I was a little let down. You just have to go to places. They're just not right over my house.
Yeah.
Which is kind of annoying. But there's also an airport like
That
2
maybe
miles
that's
from
why
my
they
house.
don't want to be there. Could
Yeah.
be, maybe I don't know.
Maybe.
Northeast Colorado, Sterling area, and there's a lot of goose guides up there, so
Okay.
that's a good part. If you like goose hunting, it's kind of boring sitting in a cold hole all day long, but in the ground. Goose blind hole in the ground. That's what we're talking about.
That's not as fun,
That's what we're talking
but duck hunting is one of the most fun things.
That is, yeah.
I think,
That's
on the planet.
more exciting.
Going with your friends and just sitting in a blind and cooking breakfast burritos,
Right.
waiting for ducks to come screaming in,
Yeah,
and then you
that's
just
more
start
fun.
quacking and making wild noises. They start circling and come screaming.
Duck hunting's fun.
Man,
Yeah.
duck hunting brings me alive.
And you know what? If you don't want to do the big game, any small game, you could just get a regular small game hunting license. Get the little fish hunting combo. I think it's like $35 or something. You can squirrels, rabbits, whatever. There's a lot of hunting in Colorado.
There's a lot of hunting
There's
in
a
Colorado.
lot.
And like we said, I hope that you just understand that like it can be pretty convoluted. I'm going to tag Go Hunt one more time
Yeah.
just because they do such a good job of really breaking it down and really helping you get specific. And by the way, you don't just buy Go Hunt for one state. When you buy the membership, so if you're just looking at maximizing your hunting opportunities out west, you can also look at Utah and Idaho. But I know people that come from out of state because they didn't draw in Utah or New Mexico or Montana or whatever it is, and they'll come here because we're one of the only states that has over-the-counter elk.
Right, yeah.
And that's like the quintessential hunt out west.
Yeah,
is-
it's the Western hunt.
yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
elk hunt is such a magical experience. It's a really, really incredible thing to be a part of. So make sure that you get on and that you know the rules, that you get really thorough, and it'll also just help you learn the state a little bit better.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to learn the state, we do. That's what we do.
That's what we do.
Not just via hunting. That's a small part of our lives, important part, but it's a small part of our lives. But if you've been sitting on the fence and thinking, man, I would really love to move to Colorado, but, well, this is your sign, dang it. This is like the opportunities. If you're tired of just hunting whitetail every year, sitting in a tree
In a tree stand freezing, it's no fun.
it's so boring.
It's so boring. And I'm from Ohio. I can say that.
I'm
'cause
from
that's-
Illinois.
Right there.
I can say it
Exactly,
too.
Exactly.
It's so boring. Man, Colorado really is just this giant outdoor playground. If you've been sitting on the fence, get off the fence.
Jump this way.
No, every other state is like, oh, don't come here. You know what? Come here.
We got room for one
let's
more.
go. We got room for one more. Let's go. And when you do decide to come out here, let us know. And we'll help you figure out where to go, where to eat, where to play, where to recreate, where to sleep.
And where to sleep.
At the end of the day.
Where
are you
what
gonna
pillow
sleep?
are you going to lay your head on?
Yep. I'm Kyle.
I'm Chris.
We're from the Berisford Group, and we just want to help you make the most of whatever it is that you decide to do with Colorado. In the meantime, I'm literally leaving for a hunt in 2 days.
Yeah, you are. That's
Although
right.
it's in New Mexico. But so I got to go prep for that. Hit us up with any questions.
Call.
One more time, give us a call. Like, subscribe, share,
Notification bells, all the things.
whatever.
Till next time.
Bye.